upgrade that part non-airworthy in today's standards. So, believe it or not, when this aircraft is finished, it will be far superior in quality to when it originally rolled off the production line. And when you consider the sort of damage that they received and came back again on operations, it just shows how over-engineered these particular aircraft were for the work that they were doing. I was going to send something else around, wasn't I? Send that round. You'll see some corrosion on that, and you'll see the bigger holes and the figure of 8 holes in that. Various other things we've had to effectively scrap and are no longer serviceable just through wear and tear. So because the wingtips were always flexing, they've actually elongated the holes where they attach to the fuselage, or to the wing, sorry. So you'll see that these holes are no longer round. And of course, for us to certify that as airworthy again, they have to be perfect holes in a perfect structure. So although those are perfectly strong enough for taxiing and being static, and they will keep going for decades more, to be licensed as airworthy, the item has to be perfect.
When you've done all this, does it have to be inspected for airworthiness, or where are you with that?
Yeah, so the company or ourselves that's doing the work has to work to a certification called A823. And that is a certification for the company to show that they are capable of doing the work, following the correct working practices. They've got the people licensed to do the work, so on and so forth. They've got all the manuals, they've got sufficient drawings, all that kind of thing. So A823, what licenses you need or certification you need is dictated by the type of aircraft, the weight of the aircraft, the size, so on and so forth. So we would have the same certification for a Lancaster as a Boeing 747, 757. So we are working, which is a huge drawback for us, we're working to the same principles as British Aerospace, as British Airways, EasyJet, all those that are actually working on full jumbo jets. Because of the weight of the aircraft, the size of the aircraft, we're within the same category. So a lot of the background, the paperwork, all the working practices are effectively for a civil airline world, which we still have to do because we need the same certification as you would if you were doing that size of aircraft. So the way all this works is the people physically doing the work don't need any licenses, certification. They have to work to our work packs, our working practices. The work they do is then oversigned by our chief engineer, who, because he has a complete license for this type of aircraft, he is trusted by the CAA that his judgment is correct, and it's on his head if anything happens. So it's on his license, so he takes responsibility for it. And the CAA view it as they do with the certification for this company, the certification for any stress house, anything like that. Because they have granted that certification to that person or that company, they have deemed that that person is capable of doing that job, and that is all the certification and everything they see they need on that, because they've licensed that person to do it, and therefore it's then their responsibility. They of course audit our company to make sure that we're following all the practices, all the paperwork's in order and everything like that. They will physically look at parts of the aircraft. For example, on the trestles behind you there is an airworthy aileron that we've just finished. The CAA came twice over the last 2 weeks, just a keeping in touch period. They looked at the aileron there, cursory glance over it. But of course what they were looking at more is the work packs, the paperwork behind it. Everything needs to be traceable. So every rivet that's in that aileron is traced back individually to where it was produced and what it was made out of. So everything has got to have a paper trail and a history to each individual item. So everything that we buy in is batched in, all the certification that comes with it is placed with it. So there is a complete paper trail and history to everything that's done, where it came from, why it was done, all the stress analysis and certification to everything. Which is why they say when the paperwork weighs the same as the aircraft, it's ready to fly. So if this aircraft was just being restored to static condition, a lot of what we're having to replace would be fine and would go back in. You'd clean it up, you'd paint it, you'd put it back in. It would be half the cost, bar the labour, and no paperwork. There's a Lancaster out at Windsor in Canada who are restoring it to airworthy condition, but they're not doing any of the paperwork. So they've got a half to a third of the work that they actually need to, that we're doing, because they're not doing all the background to it as well. We have 2 people, 2 engineers, pretty much office bound all the time, doing paperwork, work packs, A823, A825. Everything that is needed in the background to actually mean the people on the shop floor can do the work. So you might see 6 or 8 engineers working on the aircraft, there's another 2 in the office, there's someone doing stores, there's somebody doing purchasing, there's the accountants, so it's a huge background to everything that's needed to put one rivet in that hole. So this is why the whole project is going to cost about £4 million and take 10 years. So when you start saying airworthy compared to saying restored, there's a great chasm in between the two of what's actually required to be done. But we can't afford not to do it in reality. The Lancaster was built at a time when they were using a lot of magnesium alloy rivets. And the problem with the magnesium alloy rivet is it just basically powders away, it corrodes away because of the magnesium that's in it. So some of these rivets, you could have got your fingernail underneath and chopped the head off because of the corrosion inside the rivet itself. So if we don't do this that we're doing to the aircraft, we will have it in bits, but not of our choosing, because it will fall apart. So while we're putting all the labour into taking it apart and putting it back together again, for the extra 30% that it takes to make it airworthy, we might as well do it. So we will end up with, without meaning to sound bad or anything, we will end up with the best condition Lancaster in the world when this is finished, because it has been restored now and to the best possible practices that there are available right now. So that will be the benefit of us doing this extra 30%. Although it's going to cost us a lot more, by the time it's finished, as long as we don't run out of fuel in the meantime, the aircraft will be airworthy and hopefully flying around the country, as long as we can get insurance and fuel and people to do it. So as I've alluded to, there's about another 7-8 years left in the project, approximately another £3 million, £2.5 to £3 million to spend on the aircraft. The way that we're doing the work is in bite-sized sections. So when we originally had the meeting and the agreement with the CAA to enable us to do the work, we had to set out how we were going to do the work. The way we do the work is we split the year into 6 months. So 6 months of taxiing, raising the money to spend in the 6 months of restoration work in the winter. The problem we have is that's good because people can still come and see the aircraft operating every year, they can hear the aircraft running, they can come and experience a Lancaster. But it also means that each winter we have to button it back up again, send it out for the summer, bring it back in, take it apart again, get back to where we were, do the work, button it up again, and it makes it an awfully difficult job. Well, it's a job that we can't not do. So we have to taxi her to raise the money to spend in the winter. In the winter we're spending between 120 and 180,000 pounds per winter at the moment, plus the VAT. So we have to raise that in the summer with the air shows, memberships, admissions, all the teas and cakes and coffees you're buying in the NAFI. I've not seen you have enough cake actually, so you can have one when you go back in. All that has to be raised in the summer to then spend in the winter. As I've said before, we do have the Rivet Club. The Rivet Club is a monthly donation, anywhere from £2 up to I think £50 is the highest monthly donation you can give. And for that, in the summer you receive weekly, in the winter you receive weekly emails, a little bit similar to this talk that I'm doing now, but in the email form with photos. And in the summer you receive monthly newsletters. So that just keeps everybody updated. That's called the Rivet Club. That at the moment is raising, I think it's sat at about £50,000 a year that's raising for us. And there's about 1,800 members I think at the moment. So although each individual person is giving a couple of pounds a month, when you add that up across everybody, it's actually making a really big impact. So thank you very much to all of our Rivet Club members, and thank you very much to all those that you're going to go back and join the Rivet Club. So yeah, the Lancaster taxi rides is what produces the main income to do the work. It also is the most rewarding for us because we see the majority of people that come to have a ride on board the aircraft have a real emotional link to the Lancaster. And so when we see people in tears because of the effect it's had on them, going back and being possibly where their relative was, or they might have had an interest because of the Dam Busters film, and getting on board Lancaster means an awful lot. So that is the most rewarding thing to us, really seeing people being able to get involved with it. So we get a lot of questions saying, oh, when the aircraft's airworthy, I guess no one will be able to get near it, nobody will be able to get on it or anything. But it's very important to us that Bomber Command and those that served in Bomber Command came from every different part of life, every different part of civilization around the world, the Commonwealth, and you didn't have to be rich or poor to be part of Bomber Command. So we're very keen that anybody should be able to get involved with the Lancaster, to be able to experience the Lancaster. So we want anybody from a £50 tour up to possibly a flight in the future. We want to be a broad spectrum of people being able to get involved and experience the aircraft, because that's what Bomber Command was during the Second World War. You could have been anybody to join Bomber Command. You didn't have to have £1 million in your pocket and be the elite. Thank you very much for listening to me. I'm more than happy to take as many questions as you want, but I fully suspect you're equally bored of listening to me. Thank you very much.